It's quite challenging to quantify the academic community in Latin America. But we can estimate it to be around 32 million people. This figure includes undergraduate and graduate students, as well as professors from both public and private institutions. That's a little under 5% of the Latin American population. It's a significant number, right? If Gabriel Garcia Marquez Macondo, just a small town full of people, gave rise to so many stories, imagine the tales we can tell from the halls of higher education in our region. I'm Alejandra Ortiz, and I will be your host for Homo Academicus.
I'm Débora Vieira, and I will be your host for Homo Academicus in Portuguese.
Soy Esteban Muñoz y voy a ser tu anfitrión para Homo Academicus. Podríamos decir somos tu podcast sobre vida académica.
A podcast where we dive into the academic life and its challenges.
Welcome to Homo Academicus. We could say we are your go-to podcast for academic life, but let's be real, life goes way beyond our CVs and publications. Introduce us to that friend of yours who loves to complain about university or their course, but is still grinding it out right there with you. And let's go.
Well, maybe the university isn't quite as fantastic as Macondo, but the idea behind this series is to reflect a bit more on the culture we built within our universities. After all, even though we're looking at a pretty vast universe, with 20 independent countries and a bunch of other territories in Latin America, we share a lot in common when it comes to our university experiences. And one thing we can definitely say about higher education is that it remains a source of hope. For some, it represents opportunities for social mobility, explore nature and the universe, and make groundbreaking discoveries. Beyond that, the university and the knowledge it fosters also holds the potential for driving social transformation. It's in the classrooms, the laboratories, and libraries that we equip ourselves to serve society and where we generate knowledge and make discoveries that contribute to the common good. Whether it's developing new medications, crafting urban mobility proposals, or studying and refining teaching methods for the classroom. However, it's common for this same space to turn into a true odyssey or a set of Herculean tasks. Put your favorite saga here, filled with obstacles and challenges to overcome. So, before diving into this podcast, it's important to make one thing clear. Talking about these challenges in academic life is no easy task, mainly because we're dealing with multiple layers of complexity. The first layer is that we're weaving these episodes through a dialogue with various contexts across Latin America, especially Chile, Peru, Ecuador, and Mexico, since part of our team and volunteers are based there. In this regard, this series is being published in 3 languages, Portuguese, Spanish, and English. We're working hard to be sensitive to other contexts as well, especially since things are happening out there in the world that aren't even close to what I experience. If you want an example, and you can understand Spanish, listen to the episode Acuario de Papel from the podcast Radio Ambulante. It portrays a type of challenge in education and higher education faced in Venezuela that we don't have in Mexico. But don't worry about writing down the reference I just mentioned, because we will leave all references cited in the dialogue guide in our website. I'll tell you more about it later. A second layer of complexity is that some of the challenges we encounter are individual, others are collective, and some are institutional, or even broader, involving public policies and other factors. So the idea is to reflect together on what actions we can take as individuals, without disregarding the broader context and these other factors. It's important to remember that some issues simply can't be addressed alone, and many are shaped by larger systems, be it institutional policies, directives from the Ministry of Education in each country, funding agencies, or public policies, among others. The goal here is to incorporate these perspectives, though we recognize the inherent limitations of this format. Neither we nor you can tackle everything, especially in less than an hour, the approximate length of each episode. Think of each episode as a spark, igniting discussions and opening up topics and perspectives for you to explore in other ways, perhaps with your listening club or through your own research. Additionally, a third layer of complexity lies in the fact that universities, perhaps now more than ever, are under scrutiny. Education itself is constantly under attack. Discussing these issues isn't easy, as it might seem like we're giving ammunition to those who aim to undermine and further discredit education. However, it is precisely because we deeply love education and believe in its transformative power that we feel the need to reflect on these topics, starting with ourselves. It is because we believe in universities that we want the people within them to navigate their academic journeys with greater health and quality of life. It is because we believe in research that we cannot accept seeing it conducted in a place where injustice is practiced. And one last note, just to emphasize, we won't be able to cover all perspectives in this season. Our goal is to serve as a spark, not only to raise awareness, but also to nurture healthy spaces for dialogue on each topic we explore and take these conversations beyond the podcast. But let's go back to the challenges we encounter in higher education. The dynamics we experience in high school are vastly different from those in college or university. As we venture deeper into this academic jungle, it becomes increasingly clear that we need specific skills and tools to navigate the challenges that arise. Our colleagues are no longer the ones who grew up alongside us. Instead, we find ourselves surrounded by people of all kinds and ages. The professors are also different from those in school or preparatory courses. The content becomes more complex, and along with that comes a feeling of everyone else seems fine and understands everything, except for me. So, to help us consider this tangled web, don't think of Homo Academicus as just a podcast. Think of it as a project that will involve more than just the audio you're listening to right now. In each episode, we will focus on a theme, such as time management.
There has never been so much talk. There have never been so many tools, so many publications on time management, and it has never been so difficult to manage time.
Violence in the university.
The judiciary often looks favorably on those who seek an extrajudicial resolution before resorting to legal action. So, there is an important point about involving the university administration.
And a boogeyman of academic writing.
Now, when we are talking about academic writing, specialized individuals are involved, an advisor or an editor with more knowledge and experience in the process. Here, it's almost impossible to send the first version of a text and hear that it doesn't need any corrections.
To explore these topics, we will share some stories, experiences, and consult researchers, students, and professors from Latin America.
When I approached my advisor for my thesis, right from the start, when she saw my proposal, she pointed out what aspects of my topic she had a lot of knowledge in and what she wasn't so familiar with, which we would need to build together.
You have the problem that we are not trained to be advisors. We are trained to be teachers, and so on. We could say that, in fact, we are trained to be teachers to some extent, because training to teach also has its limits. In fact, to put it another way, we are trained to be researchers.
I think it's important for professors to have a general understanding of where their students come from, so they don't assume that everyone is understanding everything. Often, the quality of education received is not the same for everyone, and because of this, some students need to work twice as hard to level their knowledge.
Second detail. You who are listening to the podcast in English will mostly hear my voice, but as other people join in, I'll introduce you to them. In Spanish, the host will be Esteban Muñoz from Chile.
Yo mismo tuve que aprender muchas cosas por mi cuenta. Hay muchos profesores que eligen a sus alumnos favoritos y los demás acaban un poco perdidos y tienen que trabajar el doble para ponerse al día.
And the host of the Homo Academicus in Portuguese will be Débora Vieira from Brazil.
Eu sou de Minas Gerais, caso ainda não tenha dado tempo de identificar o sotaque.
On our website for each episode, you will also find a page with bios of all the people who contributed their opinions and stories, as well as the other individuals involved in writing our scripts. Because even though you only hear my voice, there are others, besides the host of other languages, who also contribute to writing this text, such as Raquel Maya, Ana Becerra, and Fred Lopez. in addition to people who provided critical feedback on the scripts. Third detail. We wanted to bring stories that involve personal perceptions of the issues we will address, as well as the experiences of these individuals. But we've also been studying to bring information based on scientific literature that seeks to understand the experience of academics, as well as the vices and virtues that exist among us. So, another thing we need to agree on here is that this podcast format needs to be more fluid. If we start citing too many references, publication years, and so on, it would be hard to follow. So, on the website, you'll also find a dialogue guide for each episode with reflection questions. And there will be all the references we used, mentioned, and any extra references we have. Okay? Got it? In the same area of the site, you will find a page with the participants of each episode, including their bios, contact info, and research focus. Fourth detail. The transcription of each episode and extra resources like exercise to help you think about your time or your strengths will also be available on the website. We will talk about these resources in the episodes, but there might be some surprises along the way. Fifth detail. For each episode, you will also find on our website, www.homoacademicus.org, a dialogue guide so you can listen to the podcast with a group of friends, colleagues, students, etc., and then discuss the topics, what we call a listening club. Remember when I said to think of Homo Academicus as a project, not just a podcast? That's because it also relies on the discussions you'll have on your listening club, because your context may be different, or have other particularities, or maybe you don't agree so much with what we're presenting here. And that's okay. The important thing is that we start talking about these things. The idea is that in addition to discussing the challenges and problems, which we're tired of knowing what they are, we can also sketch out some suggestions, provocations, and tools to deal with these issues. And again, we have several limitations here, so our suggestions won't be absolute, and they may not make sense to you or your context. And that's why it would be really great if you could have other people to discuss what you received from us, so it's not just you and your own thoughts. But if you don't know anyone to start a listening club right now with, don't worry. We'll list some listening clubs on our website so you can find one near you, as well as a link to a chat on Discord in case you can only meet virtually. We know that in this university context, it's not easy to try to navigate everything on your own. Having a support network, a group of friends to rely on, or even trusted colleagues who can help with questions makes a big difference. So go ahead, click the share button and send this podcast to someone who's in the same boat as you, living or surviving the academic life. Let's start talking about the challenges we encounter on this journey. That's it for today. See you in the next episode. And spoiler, it's about the unspoken rules of the university.
The Homo Academicus podcast is a project founded by the John Templeton Foundation and does not necessarily reflect on the Foundation's opinion. Visit the website at homoacademicus.org to learn more about us and find our resources.